Warning, the following video is not financial advice. I am sharing my biased opinion based on speculation. You should not take my opinion as your own. You should always do your research before making any investments. Understand the risks of investing. Thank you. Hey, what's up guys? So as we begin to linger in Bitcoin's price action around that 8,000 vicinity, we start to get a different shift in perspective regarding bulls versus bears. So in today's video, I want to break down a different outlook on why I think Bitcoin could possibly end up breaking out. All right. So if you enjoy this content, be sure to like, subscribe. Also, if you like this format, let me know. This is obviously a total ripoff from Kevin Spence's video. So go check his channel out. I'll leave a link in the description below, probably in the top right-hand corner. So go check out his channel. With that being said, guys, let's get right into it. All right, guys, so welcome back to the channel, everybody. From here on out, I'm going to try to be more consistent with these uploads, especially now that Bitcoin is seeing a lot of rampant price action. Okay, as you can tell, guys, in my last video, if you guys haven't already, go check that out. I did discuss how Bitcoin had the possibility of, and I should still say that, still has the possibility of making lows of around 5,000 vicinity, right? And that was back in that video when I had uploaded it. Bitcoin was still lingering at range lows of around $7,600. But since then, we've had a different shift in perspective, and I want to share with you guys with that today. All right. So as you guys read in the beginning, this is not financial advice. Please, everything that's shared today, guys, is all based on my personal experience. So in the end, it can be speculative investing. So be sure to do your own research and to study your own technical analysis. All right, so let's get into it. So first of all, it's important to always draw our support channels. Recently, though, we did see a huge spike in price action, roughly around that 7,600 price range. Notice that when we correlate that 7,600 price range, that is when we've lastly had a couple of rejections, right? So that's when we had that huge rejection wick off that 7,600 price range. And I mean, if you really kind of go back, that's more or less around that general vicinity where we had a tough time getting above that. So for us to still hold above this support structure lets us know that we are still in a bullish uptrend. And if we actually zoom out towards that daily time frame, we are also still sticking above its overall bullish trend as well, right? So you can see right here, if we connect the dots more or less, right, you can see that this is also starting to enact as a support. Shout out to my friend Ryan. He is in the Inner Circle group. He did mention and post a little bit of a chart regarding this. I'll probably share a screenshot of that. So shout out to Ryan as well. So this did help give me a different perspective regarding Bitcoin's price action, because before, when I was drawing out the trend lines, what I was noting was that we were seeing something of this nature, right? Perhaps we were still seeing, of course, it is still a higher low, right? We are still lower than its previous highs, but in some ways, we've already almost broken out of its wedge. In some ways, all right, things can still go down, but again, this is me sharing a bullish perspective. But as long as we continue to hold, I believe, this trend line and as well as this support structure, we do have the ability to possibly end up breaking out. So let's get into some micro price action. All right, this is what I'm currently looking at and looking for. We did just get our 4-hourly close around about 10 minutes ago. And as you can see right here, we're still lingering around that 8,000 price range. So currently we are still seeing a little bit of some rejection here around that general vicinity. We've managed to get 3 failed rejections. But in my opinion, as long as we keep hammering that resistance area, eventually we're probably bound to break it. What I want to look for is to see another surge of accumulation, meaning that since we are still holding above the support structure, maybe perhaps we could see a retest right towards the upsides and maybe see a rejection. Ideally, I would like to see a rejection up towards that liquidation area, because this is where we did hit a couple of resistance areas. And so ideally, I think for us to really propel towards the upside, right, really break out, I think it'd be healthy for Bitcoin to retrace back down towards lows of around 77 to 7,800 range. This would be considered what's known as a proper consolidating pattern, right? We've seen this time and time again in the past with various altcoins and even Bitcoin itself, is when we reach down towards that range low of our support structure and we begin to accumulate and consolidate, right? So you can typically note that, it goes like this, it just bounces back and forth. And so ideally, I think a range down towards that 7,800 range or so, that vicinity, would allow us to begin to accumulate and allow for more buyer price action. Okay, so if we switch charts really quickly, let's take a look at the daily time frame. Right here I have different indicators. I do have the 200 exponential moving average and the 140 on the daily. And one thing I want to note here though is that right now Bitcoin is right at its support / resistance area. You can see right now that the daily EMAs are enacting, or I should say are becoming a question of if we are going to break out or if we're going to reject here. In the past, and I've talked about this time and time again, how these daily time EMAs, so let's actually switch charts really quickly, back to the Bitstamp charts. But as you can see, time and time again, these EMAs have enacted as strong supports in the past, right? And so I do believe that these EMAs have possibly the best influence regarding uptrends and bear trends. And back again last year in 2019, once Bitcoin broke out, you can see that they started enacting as a strong support up until the point where, of course, we saw some resistance, and we started up until I believe last week or 2 weeks ago, we were still below them. And so right now we are at a determining factor of regarding whether Bitcoin will end up either breaking out here, right, and seeing some higher highs, or we could actually end up rejecting it here. So this is why it's important, in my opinion, to get proper accumulation. I do believe that if we do start to get some more consolidation in this general vicinity, right, right, so if you kind of around this general area, then I do believe that that's going to allow us to properly break out and then eventually possibly see some higher highs at that point, and then we begin to uptrend, which would be very ideal. So that is something else to keep an eye out for, is that daily time frame on that 200 exponential moving average. All right, so let me know your thoughts. Do you guys agree? Are you still sticking with the predicament that Bitcoin could end up actually seeing some resistance here and we end up making lower lows towards that 5,000 price range? Or do you believe that we could end up breaking out here? I really want to hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Okay, guys. With that being said, guys, let's check out some altcoins, because recently we have been seeing a lot of momentum and price action regarding the altcoin price action. Okay, so the first thing first, for me, one of the leading altcoins in the current market isn't necessarily Ethereum, even though Ethereum has always been a leader. For me, right now, the biggest leader, and from what I've seen, is, of course, in my opinion, Litecoin. You're probably saying, why do you say Litecoin? Because obviously, we've had probably more coins that have come in the markets. So let's actually take a look at the Coinbase charts. But the reason I say Litecoin is a leading indicator in the market currently, and I could be totally wrong on this, but is because, of course, in our last run up, Litecoin did end up seeing possibly the most gains. I mean, really from its lows of almost 600%, really. It was around 545%, which, I mean, if you were able to catch that, you made possibly pretty good amount of money. I mean, in comparison to Ethereum only saw half that price action. It only saw roughly around 200%. And by the time it was uptrending, it was only roughly around 150%. So it was nowhere near the same vicinity as a Litecoin. So this is why in my opinion, I am starting to pay attention more towards Litecoin and coins like EOS rather than Ethereum. Anyway, so let's get into the point right now. So something that I've been noting across the board with all altcoins, not just Litecoin, is that we are beginning to consolidate and form what's known as this, I'd say an ascending wedge. Really, it doesn't look like a descending wedge to me. It looks more of an ascending wedge. And as long as we continue to consolidate within this general vicinity, I do believe that this is going to allow us to eventually break out. So for right now, for the time being, And this is all dependent on Bitcoin as well, right? So it all depends on if Bitcoin ends up breaking out here, or if we end up making lower lows towards 5,000 range. But let's make the assumption that Bitcoin does end up breaking out, okay? Let's say, for example, it does end up seeing highs of around $85,000 to $9,000. And then at that point, I do believe that coins like Litecoin could end up seeing some range highs of around $70. And at that point, once we get above this general vicinity, right, so above $70 to $80 range, we could then begin to accumulate, consolidate for the remainder of, I'd say, the year or so, at least half the year. And then at that point, we could see a huge break in price action, okay? And once we break this general wedge right here, and again, this is more general technical analysis. This isn't anything too detailed, but I will say that once we do break this general wedge, I do believe that is when we begin our next bull cycle, more specifically our altcoin bull market, okay? And so again, this isn't just a chart that I'm noting with just Litecoin. If you look at any other altcoin as well, right? So if we take a look at, let's say, for example, EOS, right? Let's take a look at its Binance chart. You can see that it's also having some similar patterns here, right? Where we've already tapped into its previous highs, right? So it's this higher low, but also we've had a lower high right here established. And so we begin to get this ascending, you can even call it a symmetrical wedge maybe to an extent. And again, similar to what we were talking about with Litecoin, I do believe that if we end up consolidating around this range and eventually end up breaking out, we will begin our next bull cycle towards the upside. And the reason why this is very important is because ultimately, and I've said this time again, is that I do believe that altcoins in the long run, especially I'd say within the next bull cycle, will outperform Bitcoin marginally, right? So let me take a look at some examples really quickly, okay? So if we look at CoinTrader Pro, this is where I do all my technical analysis for altcoins. And if we look at the altcoin dominance, all right, quick warning, this is a white chart, so try not to get blinded really quickly. But if you take a look at the altcoin dominance for altcoins, we are starting to establish what's known as a higher low. Something similar that I talked about in my live stream long time ago. So now that we're starting to establish a support structure around this general vicinity in terms of dominance, I do think it's very possible that we could end up propping towards the upside, okay? And again, this is all depending on how Bitcoin reacts. If Bitcoin ends up breaking out here, I do believe this will sway us towards the positives, right? I do believe that altcoins will start to get some more money to flow in there, and we will begin to uptrend ultimately. And the reason why I'm more bullish now this year, specifically more than ever, is because of the Bitcoin halving. And I will talk about that probably in my next video because there's definitely a lot to cover, all right? This is a new year and there's a lot going on in the markets. And ultimately, I want to prepare you guys for the next bull cycle. At this point, more so, I think it's important to look at a macro scale more so than a micro, because in the long run, I do believe that this will probably be very insignificant. You know, once the bull market starts to hit, there's going to be a lot of upward price action and just going to be a continuation towards the upside. So again, I'm going to be uploading more videos regarding bull cycles, bull markets, you know, what to look out for, how to prepare for it, and really different trading styles regarding how to trade in the bull run. So if you guys are excited for that, be sure to subscribe, again, like the videos. And something I mentioned in the beginning of the video was that be sure to also subscribe to Kevin Svensson. Guys, he's a really great guy. He's always supporting me, so it's right for me to only do that for him. So go check out his channel. I will leave a link in the description below, or possibly again on the right hand corner. And be sure to check out the last video as well, you know, where I discuss about how Bitcoin could still end up seeing range lows of around $5,000. So again, if you enjoyed this video, again, subscribe, like the video, and as always, guys, I'll see you on the next one.